$112,000. Fight of the night, Alan Joban and Matt Dwyer. Performance of the night, Tony Ferguson and Frank Mir, $50,000. Frank will be joining us momentarily. Todd has been transported to a local hospital. Who's got the first question?
Just start off, Tony. Speak to me about your evolution as a mixed martial artist since The Ultimate Fighter over here. Just at the back. Since The Ultimate Fighter, how have you evolved to put this 6-fight win streak together?
It's been an interesting ride. Just making sure that I fix my mistakes. My fight against Michael Johnson, I really wasn't prepared for that. But that set a fire underneath me to make sure that everything else was pretty set up for it. This fight, I didn't really have to throw too many punches. I cut him up pretty good with elbows. And I knew he was going to be a crafty vet, so I just had to keep up on my toes.
Just one for Holly as well. Holly, how did you assess your performance this time out after last time? You were a bit critical of yourself last time out.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
How did you assess your performance tonight?
I feel like I let a little bit more out there this time than my UFC debut, but I always thrive to want to do more, and I wish I would have gone forward and been a little more aggressive a little sooner in the fight.
Questions, we got Eric with the mic here. Let's get up here to Matt Erickson, if you don't mind. Thanks, Eric, pulling double duty.
Dave, I know you're not Dana.
I am not.
You got a nice clean cut like him though. Hey, can you give like kind of an official company statement maybe on sort of the resurgence of a couple heavyweights that we thought were kind of done for, and Frank and Andrei Arlovsky too. It's kind of like everything old is new again all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, Frank looked fantastic. We know Frank's made a new commitment to striking, and I think you saw that tonight. He's really putting it in seriously. I think the time off that he took really played a role, and the same for Andre. I mean, Andre's in a great camp down there with Jackson's. All the guys that you talk to talk about how renewed he is in his focus and his dedication. So the heavyweight division is really, really interesting right now. Obviously, Verdum's our champion. Kane's on the comeback trail. You have Stipe, Ben Rothwell, Andrei Arlovsky, Frank Mir's right back in the picture. It's a really, really fun division right now.
Cool, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Tony, can you just talk to us a little bit? We talked about that Josh was a tough guy to finish when we talked to you the other day, and that proved to be the case.
I almost had him finished. My hand went into the cage, and Herb Dean saw it, stood us up. It was my fault for reaching in the cage, but I saw him. He wasn't there for a while. His eyes were kind of crossed, and when I went for the kill, it was really slippery. The blood was going down, and even my triangle, I could feel the blood just like dripping on me, and it was kind of crazy. So I got to go back and work on some of those things. You can't really prepare for that inside in the practice room, but something to think about.
You also talked about not needing mat time anymore, and I know you mentioned that with John Anik inside the cage, but so how do you use this going forward? Being able to spend 15 minutes in there with a guy like that and just kind of, work on things and tell us about using that going forward.
We're pretty big on having fun inside the training camp. And when we were inside that octagon, my coaches reminded me to smile and go in there and be loose. And that's what I did. And I went in there and I used some new skills that I haven't used before. Usually I'm all about just punches and kicks. This time it was a lot of front teeps, testing his conditioning, and using some elbows. And I cut him up pretty good with the elbows. And I did some cool stuff. I did a flip, I guess, in there in the first round, which was pretty cool and creative. I'm all about that, being original and setting the standard. And we pushed the pace for him.
So you're in a very tough division. Would you consider this your biggest win to date in terms of opponent?
Of course. It was a huge win against a veteran like Josh Thompson. A true guy like that coming in here and from AKA taking on these guys from all these big camps. I'm great to be able to break in the top 10 with that guy.
Sure. If I could move to Mr. Mir, please. Congratulations. Right here.
Thank you.
Hey, bud. So I think there's like 5,400 people out there that were probably thinking, what the hell is this guy doing? Trying to swing with a guy like Todd Duffee. Was that the plan going in? And it obviously worked out pretty well.
Well, I mean, I've been boxing in the gym with professional boxers, so I've been seeing shots come at me and see things and absorbing a lot of things that I'm learning how to move with the shots and absorb power and how to redirect it. I was trying to be more intelligent, but today my emotion got the better of me leading up to the fight, and I just bit down on my mouthpiece and wanted to make a statement that, I kept hearing old and crafty, so I guess I was kind of dumb tonight, and I just decided to show young and brash.
So that's kind of what I asked Dave earlier. I mean, this is kind of like the everything old is new again heavyweight division in the UFC with you and Andrei Arlovsky, guys we thought were kind of, maybe past their prime, and you're proving that a lot of us were wrong.
Yeah, I think heavyweights mature later in life. You see even in college wrestling and whatnot, you don't see a lot of freshmen in the heavyweight division becoming NCAA champions like you do in the other weight classes. So I think that you see it a lot of times that we come upon ourselves older. And now with my new training, I mean, Ricky Lundell's completely taken over as a head coach. I had a booklet at the beginning of camp, all of us did, explaining exactly what we're going to do each day of the camp, 8 weeks out. Why, photos of what Todd was doing in his past fights, percentages. That's why I keep naming him Moneyball. Then with Angelo Reyes as a boxing coach has really rejuvenated my thirst in really learning boxing and going into the boxing gyms and sparring boxing with boxers and not trying to use MMA and sit there and go, well, I'm going to do this, which now I think I need to do a little bit more MMA sparring also, because tonight I kind of reverted just into pure boxing. I threw a couple knees and I actually felt a little awkward throwing them because in practice I've been so boxing. But then it paid off in the end. I saw him really winging the punches, and so I just sat back and loaded my left hand, a Pacquiao-type overhand left, and just caught him.
And obviously, like a year ago, you were telling us yesterday you were considering the possibility of kind of walking away from things. How glad are you now that wasn't the case?
No,
that you
I'm
stuck
glad.
it out?
I really was. After the Overeem fight, I was figuring, why keep putting my family through this? Everybody ever can attest that being a professional athlete and fighter is an extremely selfish position. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but it has to be. If we don't put ourselves first in our training and our loved ones really have to take a second seat, then we're not going to be up here at this table in the winning area. And so, to go through all the hardships I'm going through and then keep coming up short, it's draining mentally and emotionally. But the wife was very smart. She told me to take time off and just get back to general fitness. I did, and then, like I said, I was able to even do a yoga class with her, which I wasn't able to do that there for a while. And so, like I said, with the people I have around me, I feel rejuvenated. I have great training partners that show up every day. James Hoard, Todd Price, Zach Singer, college player at the UNLV, 310-pound monster, laying on me all the time. And then going in there, and, Don House allowing me to work with his boxers and spar with them. That's a huge privilege going there. Roy Jones Jr. is in the corner watching. After a sparring match, I ask for bits of advice. So I guess I just keep it to where I'm still very youthful and very much of a kid and enjoy learning. Everybody can see that even after 14 years in the UFC, I'm constantly trying to improve. I think a lot of guys sit back on their merits and just, I have records, I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame. What more? I don't know. I'm not satisfied with that.
And Frank, you just talked about some of the research that you did looking into Todd's recent fights, but you also knew the guy personally, and that had been a storyline coming into this one. Was there anything that you knew about Todd that played into the strategy of, if I go at him early, maybe he won't be expecting that, and that would be an advantage for me?
Yeah, I always felt that Todd is, if we were all playing cards, he's a plus 10 in power, plus 10 speed. The guy's all offense. I've always questioned his defense on his movement, and I think a lot of guys, they see that overwhelming power, and they step back and give him room, and he's such an explosive athlete. The guy has one heck of a vertical, can deadlift, incredible amounts of weight. So, if you sit there and take a right hand from him and you step back, it actually allows him to hit you that much harder. So I try to take a key out of boxing, which is to, constantly slip punches and move forward. And even when he did hit me, one thing I've learned now sparring hard with boxing, which, Holly could probably attest to, wearing headgear and smashing, having partners, they don't just land one and go, oh, are you okay? They land 2, 3, 4 shots, and boxing is very much that you might land one, but I'm going to land and steal a shot at the end of the combo and come back, and we're going to fight and move. So it's not really pointish. Sometimes in MMA we kind of get into that thing where I hit you like, hey, are you okay? And I've avoided that kind of sparring where once I spar, it's from bell to bell, it's to the death. We're trying to hurt each other, and that gives me that training that if I get caught with a shot by Todd tonight, I can roll and move around, and I can keep my eyes on him knowing what more is coming after him. Whereas in the past, I might have taken one shot and sat there and taken the third, fourth, and fifth, and that's when, heavyweights hit hard.
Obviously a big win for you, and this is a question that you guys get all the time right after a big win, but do you have any idea of what this means for you? Because obviously this is a big turnaround. You were on a skid, and now you're on a winning streak. Do you have, what's next for you?
Hopefully I don't have to answer any more if I can retire questions. Maybe we can end that for a little while. No, like I said earlier in the Fox interview, I fight for the same reason that I fought first time 14 years ago. And I'm a martial artist, and I want to prove myself. And I have to have something more than just lip service and go in the gym and you train a little bit. And there's guys that are like that. I'm not satisfied with that. So I put myself against some of the hardest elements. Fighting here against other professional fighters is scary. It's nerve-wracking, but it tests who I am. It puts me to the brink of my emotion and brink of my mind. So when I crash, and even if I fail or I succeed, there's that next day in the gym, I can look at it and go, well, what can I do to make myself better as a person inside and outside the octagon? And this is the turmoil that I put myself. This is my furnace. This is my stone. So really, I think the same thought I had 14 years ago when I walked in the UFC was, let me see what I'm made out of, and then let me improve upon it when I'm done.
And then, Holly, just a real quick one for you. I mean, obviously, before your UFC debut, the Rousey thing was just on another level. You were getting questions about her all the time. It didn't seem like it was quite as much this time. And I just wonder what your opinion is. What do you think the Rousey conversation will be like now? And is that a conversation you even want to be in after this fight? Or do you still want some time, and would you like to just put Rousey to the side and not discuss her and not talk about a fight with her?
You know, she's the one with the belt, so I like that people put me in reference with that, because that's the ultimate goal. If you're in this sport, that's what you want. Ronda Rousey's paved the way, really, for a lot of us, and I have a lot of respect for her. And, you know, I don't look at it and think, oh, you know, this is how I want to map out my future fights here, but whatever fight they want to put in front of me is who I want to take, and I want each fight to be more of a challenge. I don't want it to just kind of be, you know, in boxing, there's a lot of boxers out there that what we always would call a paper champion, because they just kind of keep fighting the same skill level and trying to just build their record and build. I want it to be challenging, because if it's not a challenge, then the victory is really not that great. It doesn't feel that good. When you get in there and you fight somebody more challenging, it's more of a sweet victory. So, yeah, my goal is to be there. Otherwise, I probably shouldn't be doing this at all. But, you know, just one fight at a time. So whatever they throw at me.
And then a question for Kevin. Congratulations on your win. You know, you spoke, one thing that you said after the win was that maybe you'll start getting respect that you deserve. And I just wonder why you felt that maybe you weren't getting some respect coming into this fight.
You know, a lot of guys have been overlooking me. You know, I've been asking for big fights and stuff like that, you know, and a lot of guys have overlooked me. And, you know, I think they'll stop now. You know, I think I'm different than everybody else in the division. You know, I don't think nobody else is doing it like me at my age and with my experience level and with my God-given talents. So, you know, I train hard. I train harder than everybody else. So I want the same respect as everybody else is getting.
Question for Frank Mir. Frank, you know, we're very much right in front of you. We're very much prisoner of the moment in MMA. You know, you lose a couple, maybe you should retire. You win a couple, man, you're back in the title race.
Talk about being as only good as your last fight. It's never been truer, but in this sport.
Is it an emotional roller coaster to go through that, though, even at this experience level, to kind of go from where, you know, guys like me or guys like us are talking about, man, maybe you should retire, and now, man, we'd like to see you against, you know, Arlovsky or one of these other guys in a title contender fight. I mean, it's a big roller coaster.
It is, and it's hard, because I've gone from both sides of the extreme. Very young in my career, started out, I listened to what everybody said, and it affected me. And then I went to the other side of the extreme, where probably people can attest. A couple years ago, you brought it up, I was a dick. You know what I mean? Like, you know, people would talk to me, and I was like very off-putting, and I didn't want to talk to anybody from the media, and I was very closed off. And so I've gone now back in the middle, where I have to listen to what people are saying, and I just have to, you know, some things sting, or oh, that's a little sensitive, you know. But at the same time, there might be truth behind it, and it's a perspective from the outside. So I look at that perspective, and then I break it down. I'm very analytical about it, and I try to use critical thinking. I'll bounce it off people around me. I'll look at it, you know, if there's merit behind what they're saying, and then can I improve upon it? Is it something I can work with?
And, you know, going into this, we know that you were originally hoping for Brock Lesnar before this fight came up. So it was understandable that maybe Todd Duffee wasn't the first name on your list of guys you wanted to face. You're a future Hall of Famer. Lots of guys you could have faced. But do you feel,
it was a very dangerous fight.
Do you still feel like you proved a big point with that kind of a knockout, that kind of performance, no matter who it was against?
Right, and that's why I trained so hard for this fight with my training staff, and pushed and put myself out there against some of the people that I pushed myself against. Was that I had to make it to where my victory wasn't going to be about who I had it over, but what kind of victory it was. So I wanted to make a statement with my performance, so that overrode the fact that, you know, Todd Duffee was an opponent I didn't want. Why? The guy isn't ranked, and he's capable of knocking you out. There's a lot of heavyweights in the top 10 that could face him, and they fight each other more than once. One of those times, he could knock them out in a minute. The guy is very heavy-handed, very explosive, and he comes out strong and hard. So it was a huge gamble, and then he's not ranked, so by winning, going out there and grinding out a decision in 5 rounds, or maybe he fatigues and gets tired after a couple minutes and he looks bad and I just capitalize on it and take him down and choke him, and then they're like, you didn't look that great, and you didn't look that great against Todd Duffee. So that was what I was worried about. And like I said, the risk was there. The guy's 240 pounds, shredded, wearing 4-ounce gloves. That hurts to get hit by the guy. It didn't feel good.
I'm going to be the guy to ask the question, Frank. You've fought a lot of legends in your career. You've tapped out Antonio Nogueira. You've obviously knocked out Mirko Krokop. I'm sure you saw the news. Fedor Emelianenko is talking about coming back. Considering all the Pride legends you have faced, is that something, if it ever came together, that you would be interested in?
Oh, absolutely. I have a lot of respect for Fedor. I think he just had a couple bad fights there, and because the guy had 30 fights where he just ran through everybody, I think maybe he questioned himself and had some doubt, and he kind of basically did what I did. He's taken some time off and probably refound himself. And that guy is a martial artist. He wasn't out of the gym. I'm sure he's in there still training Sambo and moving around. The guy is a very powerful, explosive, and very savvy fighter. An opportunity to face him would be a huge, huge honor. I think the guy's out there is, I might, just on a selfish side, want him to face somebody first so he can showcase to everybody that he's still a monster and a scary dude. Remind maybe the modern fans of who Fedor is. And after that, then yeah, that would be, I faced a lot of the greats over there from, Pride, Nogueira being one of them, Krokop, phenomenal fighter who now is also making a rejuvenation of his career. So going out there and facing somebody like Fedor, absolutely.
And a quick question for Holly. The lead up, we talked about the expectations. It was impossible. You could have gone out, unless you went out and knocked out your first 2 opponents in 30 seconds, there was no way you were going to live up to the expectations that were being heaped on you. But you had a more impressive performance tonight. Did you feel more comfortable, and are you, happier with your win now? Just, you seemed like you were more aggressive, more comfortable in the cage there. You showed more confidence.
I did feel a little more relaxed this time around, and I think mostly just because my last fight, I was coming off of 2 really big injuries, and that was really something more that weighed on my mind before my last fight. But regardless, that was in February, and I've been working my butt off since then. So I do feel like I've improved, and I want to keep improving. I feel like I could have gone a little more aggressive a little sooner in the fight, and I think, I could have done a little more and been a little more happy with my performance. But my goal is to keep improving. If I had to pick, I'm glad that my first performance wasn't the best fight of my career and then just let down after that. So my goal is to keep improving and keep getting better and showing more and more and more. And there's things that I did tonight that were things we were worried about in training, and I'm glad for them. We knew she'd be pulling for triangles, and everybody's always worried about my ground game, and it wasn't even, the one time she kind of attempted for it. She kind of went to pull guard twice, so I knew she was probably frustrated because she wasn't getting any takedowns. So there's a lot of things that we did on our end to kind of shut down her game plan, which, behind the scenes, I know the things that I did that were good, and then there's things that I wish I would have just believed in more and just gone forward, So, and those are the things I'm going to learn from.
This is for Holly. Up on the octagon, you said you were not that happy. I mean, you say you want to show more. What is holding you back? What is holding you back, and what's going through your mind exactly?
I think tonight I just maybe gave her a little too much of a chance. I was kind of feeling her out. You don't really know what their game plan is going to be. I guess maybe I just always want a stoppage. I mean, that's what I think every fighter wants. So maybe that's just always what I'm working for. I'm kind of a perfectionist like that. I always want to, do better and look back and think, oh man, I could have really capitalized in this moment in the fight. I am happy with my performance though, and I feel like I did well tonight. But I just know I'm capable of more, and I want to keep showing that.
Thank you. Frank, this type of wild fights gives you the motivation to try to climb back for the title?
Well, absolutely. I think that we've seen, look at Fabricio Verdum. I think he's a phenomenal inspiration to everybody else in the division. At one point, he was cut from the UFC, and then the only reason why, he got back was they bought out the other organization, and they took over the contract, and he started from the bottom and worked his way up. And look at the guy. He's knocking out K1 champions. The guy went out there and, out-cardioed Cain Velasquez. and goes out there and is the only guy to ever put him in a finish and finish him off. And he's 37 years old. So if anybody thinks that the career's over with, I think you're seeing now that as long as you have the heart to stand up against the criticism and not quit, you can improve and get better. The only way you guarantee failure is to just not show up. And so, you look at a lot of guys out there now, Ben Rothwell, look at his resurgence he's just made. Andre Arlovsky, 7 or 8 years ago, people were probably talking about him retiring even worse than I was, just because he got a couple 20-second knockout he received. He went out there and it just looked like Andre was done. And now the guy's up there for a title shot. Came back in there, big fights, beat Schaub, comes back, takes out Bigfoot Silva in 2 minutes in Brazil, which I'm telling you, it's not easy to go down and fight in hostile territory against the hometown guy. And he goes out there, and now he just had, I train with Travis. Travis is a phenomenal fighter, I hope to avoid him until one of us has a title. Go out there and have a win against him in the first round the way they did, and what I think would be a candidate for fight of the year, especially in the heavyweight division. One of the most explosive fights I've seen in a long time. So going out there and saying the title shot, well, why not? Go out there, keep improving, step forward. The only way I guarantee that I won't get that title shot, I decide to retire and quit and I lose interest.
Thank you. Kukui, we're pretty sure you're going to wake up on Monday and you're going to be on the top 10. You know what that represents for you? And what can we expect from you? You had an awesome performance today, improving every fight. What else can we expect from you?
You can expect greatness, actually. I know breaking into the top 10 is going to scare the crap out of these guys. They don't know what to expect from me. And from what I hear, there's a lot of people that are on the injured list. They're out for a little bit. I really don't care. Whoever Joe Silva or Dana White and the Fertittas want to give me, that's who's next. And they better be damn scared.
On Monday, you said that you were going to fight for the Mexican crowd. What can you say right now after this awesome performance?
I would love to fight in Mexico. I think it would be a badass to go out there and represent and just go out there for the United States and Mexico to go out there and put on a hell of a show for you guys.
Thank you.
We'll take 2 more. Start with George. Go ahead.
Okay. Alan Jaban, great performance. Right here. Twitter was blowing up. You really put on a show. And then afterwards, you said you want to fight 2 times. You missed out fighting in your home state of Louisiana. Would Houston be close enough? Is that kind of what you're targeting? And if so, who do you want to mix it up with?
Yeah, that's interesting. Houston would be cool. When's the Houston card? Is that
October 3rd.
October? I was kind of thinking of fighting sooner, to be honest. I'm a little banged up, but it's just bumps and bruises. Take an ice bath. It'll be gone in no time. It's kind of I don't really have a fight, an opponent, but I was kind of targeting Vegas, September, I think it is. That's like 6 weeks away, possibly. I just want to stay active. I wanted to fight 4, 5, 6 times this year. Obviously, I got pulled off of the Louisiana card with an elbow injury, had the surgery, got it taken care of. Now I'm back on track, and I just want to make the most of it.
For Kukui, allow us to play matchmaker. Maybe a lot of people want to match you up maybe against Eddie Alvarez, being that he's coming off a win 3 weeks ago. Is that something that interests you?
Of course. As soon as I get cleared, I'll be back on there in training. I'm not one to stay away from the gym. Eddie Alvarez is a good fighter. I know he's here for a reason, but I'm here for a reason. That's to get that strap. And the champ knows who I am, and every person that's in the top 10 knows exactly who I am after tonight.
Lastly, for Frank Mir, a lot of people were saying that at 262, what's he doing? He's coming in a little heavier than his previous couple fights, but it had been explained to us through your coaches that you were actually more agile, more flexible. Can you make sense of that to everybody that was kind of harping on the fact that you may have come in a little more overweight than usual?
Well, I think in the past I listened to people about what I looked like and would try to diet like a bodybuilder and try to look a certain way. And I was so concerned with that, I wasn't concerned with performance. And same thing in the gym. Sometimes I lifted weights more like a bodybuilder, a power lifter, and not realizing that as a heavyweight, that's not really necessary. I'm naturally strong. I mean, my freshman year of high school, I pulled 500 pounds on a deadlift. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to get really that much stronger. But doing pull-ups, push-ups, burpees, jumping over boxes, those are things that are difficult for somebody my size. So that's when I realized that if I wanted to be a unique athlete, as a heavyweight, I needed to move like a little guy. And it's warranted me so much benefit in the jiu-jitsu world and then the grappling world. Why wouldn't I box and train like that? The only problem with that is, my coach in boxing, Angelo Reyes, very much follows Freddie Roach style, Manny Pacquiao, a lot of in and out footwork and kind of the stance. To do that, you have to be agile and move your weight around. So it really doesn't matter if I could deadlift 600 pounds for 3 reps, but how much can I jump around in and out, and can I jump over, move my own weight, can I do a cartwheel, can I do a back handspring? And I actually even have another coach, Uli Haju, who's trying to teach me gymnastics, because if you ever watch our warm-up at Gorman, the kids are, we're doing back handsprings, front flips. I'm trying to learn how to do that. Ricky, the other day, we're on a trampoline and I'm doing front and back flips into a foam pip. Not that I'm ever going to do that in a fight, but that body awareness you've seen tonight. I take a shot, move, balance, things that getting hit by Todd Duffee, I was able to keep my feet under me. I attribute to a lot of the agility work that I've been doing and trying to become more agile. And that, I think, is unique as a heavyweight. Every heavyweight can bench press a lot. Every heavyweight can lift, but can you do a cartwheel? Can you do a handstand? Those are things that I'm trying to do as a heavyweight that I think will make me unique amongst the other heavyweights.
Thank you.
For Kevin, it feels like your winning streak maybe has slipped under the radar a little bit because you lost your UFC debut, kind of were able to develop more slowly, maybe at a better pace. Can you talk about where you feel your development is right now, both as a fighter and in the rankings? And are you looking to make a huge jump up, or are you kind of satisfied, slowly progressing and kind of developing that way?
No, I'm ready to make that huge jump up, and my confidence doesn't come from this win. It comes from the way I train, Like Frank said, I'm in Roy Jones' gym 3 days a week. I'm in Mayweather's gym 2 days a week. I train like a professional boxer. I wrestle with top-level college wrestlers, and I do jiu-jitsu at Drysdale's with world-class black belts every day. So my confidence comes from the way I train. I train smart, I train hard, and I've got God-given talents, and that's where my confidence comes from. So I'm ready to test myself against those top 10 guys. If Ally Quinta wants it again, I'm ready to right that wrong. That was a period where I was doing the wrong things and not training the way I should, but now I'm doing the right thing. So I'm ready to get that one back. When Gil fell off, I asked for that fight, but he had to sit out with his knee. So I'm looking either to pass him or to get that back.
All right, guys, that'll conclude today's press conference. Just a reminder, tonight on the broadcast, we announced the UFC 191 main event is a rematch between Demetrius Johnson and John Dodson. That'll take place September 5th in Las Vegas. UFC Fight Morning this Saturday night. It'll be Michael Bisping and Talis Leites. Safe travels. See everybody in Scotland.